Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Southside Beat here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Steelers YouTube channel and podcasting network. Chris Halicke here, Matt Williamson. Some news from today, Matt.
Little bit. I think that's news, right? I did my podcast. I recorded it, and I think I started it by saying, I feel like we have to talk about Aaron Rodgers, folks, but I don't know what more to say than that. I guess we have news. Some people took take on it was, oh, I think he's retiring or he wants to go anywhere with the Steelers. Some people are like, I didn't take anything from it. The guy's got personal stuff he wants to get out of the way and needs to take care of, and then he'll get to it. And apparently he's been in touch with Mike Tomlin like every day. So are we worried or not, or who knows,
So I didn't take much from it either, to be completely honest, but I did, you kind of try to pick up on some things, whenever he was talking about his meeting with the team, which he spoke very highly of, not just Tomlin, but Arthur Smith, which that's a big one to me because it's like, okay, well, if this is going to happen at some point, how's the relationship going to be between quarterback and offensive coordinator? That's been a thing here. When Ben Roethlisberger was the quarterback, the relationship he had with Todd Haley and then with Randy Fichtner and Matt Canada. And, obviously, and so, that was one. And then talking about
real quick on that, too, like even how they get along. They don't have to be best friends. They don't have to go for beers every night and be at each other's birthday parties. But I do think scheme, is Rodgers fine with the schematics of it all and the way that that Smith operates and calls plays and philosophy? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think I could see it working. I mean, with it's a certain situation where you could have Rodgers be more of like you're not going to ask him to put the cape on anymore, nor should you at going to be turning 42 in December, but he can still make the occasional, okay, that's the old Aaron Rodgers that we all know. Like he can still do that every now and then. But then again, at the same time, you don't want him to be, putting, 50 attempts up in a game. You want him to be able to kind of be more, I don't want to say support role because it's not being a support, but you want to have a strong running game like that. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. You have to be able to run the football with the way the Steelers want to play offense. You have to, and it's not that he won't have weapons. My gosh. And the way he spoke about DK Metcalf today, talked about the specimen that he is and the human being that he is. And just the interaction with him was just all gravy. I didn't take much from it other than the fact that it really just seems to me with where Rodgers is right now that just the ball is completely in the Steelers' court.
What do you think? Okay.
Like they can just decide at any point that we're not doing this.
Yeah.
And they need to operate under the umbrella of this may never happen because you can't let it, no matter what, you can't let it affect how you're going to address quarterback in the draft. Because
that's a big thing I focused on my podcast too. Is
because it's like, okay, it doesn't matter if you're up at 21 overall, and I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but let's just say Shadur Sanders is the guy who they love.
Sure,
if he's there at 21. You better take him, regardless of what's going on with Rodgers. If he's already signed by that point, if he's still dealing with his personal issues, which, by the way, was for those who did miss what he said, he did cite personal issues as the main reason why he's taking his sweet time making this decision. Regardless of what's going on, if that's your guy, or if it's Jalen Milroe, or if it's Jackson Dart, number one, you better be right. But number two, get him. Don't hesitate. That's the one thing you cannot do in this situation and allow Rodgers to dictate your decisions. And he was very clear that I'm not holding them hostage. They can move on at any moment. And that's the way they need to operate. The ball is completely in their court on this.
Okay. I think that's a good way of looking at it. And that was a big thing I focused on my podcast too, is how does this affect the draft? And I basically said it doesn't. The hay is in the barn with your draft evaluations, all the visits, all the reports are written, everything is done. You like who you like. And that doesn't mean if he tells you no or he retires, that doesn't mean, oh man, we were going to take Sanders at 21, but now we'll trade up to 10 for him. No, everything's still the same. And if he does tell you no, which frankly I don't think he will, but I still think the pecking order will be Cousins or Carr. Rudolph's your 2. I mean, I think Rudolph's your 2 no matter what almost.
Yeah.
And if you draft someone in the 1st round or the 7th round, they're your 3. So
yeah,
I don't think it's going to be Rudolph and Shador battling it out. I mean, that's the only thing I can envision that wouldn't be a veteran.
Yeah, for sure. When you're talking about 2025, for sure, because even if you do trade back and get an early 2nd round pick because of it, like if you just completely trade out of the 1st round and you gain an early 2nd and maybe another 3rd or whatever it is, and you use that pick to take Jalen Milroe, he's not starting in 2025.
That's the beauty of taking Jalen Milroe, right?
Right. I mean, he's not going to be your guy in 2025. Nor should he. The stuff is tantalizing. The talent's tantalizing, but he's not a starting quarterback in 2025 at the NFL level. He's got to develop.
No.
He
could do rookie year Lamar stuff for 10 plays a game. Sure, that's cool.
He gets a helmet and he gets to be a running back for a little bit. Maybe he'll pull out the occasional. Oh, okay, you thought I was going to run? Well, I just threw it.
There's a deep ball to Metcalf 101. Sure, right. That's part of the allure for me, right?
Yeah. So, but then he's still got to learn the quarterback position. But either way, like they just, and I think that's the reason why this puts a lot of faith in Mason Rudolph, but they've also said they have a lot of faith in Mason Rudolph.
But that's why I love that signing. Like,
it's a safety net.
It's safety. He's a quality 2. That in itself just gives you a lot of freedom.
It gives you the freedom to I put it earlier as play this game, if that's what you want to define it as. But it gives you whatever it is you want to define it. If it's playing a game, if it's just waiting it out, if it's being held hostage. I can tell you right now.
I don't like the hostage word.
I don't either, because number one, it's almost like Aaron Rodgers has them by the cojones to say something that's not necessarily in English a bad word, but but to have them
have more power in this, like you said, than
they can move on at any moment. They can say, you know what, we're just not going to do this anymore. They are willingly going along with this. That's not being held hostage.
Right. There's so much negativity around the Steelers right now. It's like, this team's so stupid and set in their ways. They're being held hostage by this over the hill bum. I'm like, I don't think that's what's going on.
Well, and the other way to look at this, and this is like, okay, well, why play the game? And this is like in the title of the episode, he's still a bonus feature, so is it even worth the wait? If you're looking at just 2025 alone, you're not looking at 26 or any other future seasons. You're only looking at this season. Aaron Rodgers is their best option at quarterback.
I agree. To win as many games as possible this year.
Right. Yeah, to try to not only win as many regular season games, but get into the playoffs and try to make some noise. Have some firepower. Have a guy who might still have another board or two left in the chamber. A guy who can occasionally still pull out the special. He's not Superman anymore, but maybe there's a little bit of Kryptonian skin cells left on that suit. I don't know. Whatever it is.
And he's definitely good from the neck up, no matter what, Yeah.
So that's the point, because there are people who are wanting to say like, oh, well, Mason Rudolph is the better quarterback. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't agree with that.
I get asked that all the time, and I'm like, I don't know why everyone, just because he played 3 or 4 really good games the last time he was here, which is great, and all the more reason to bring him back.
He played really well, but also he played well, but everything else around him was going really well at the time. They were running the ball. I mean, again, that game in Seattle, which he was phenomenal in that game. Rudolph made some very, very great throws in that game, including one where he just had no room to step up, threw off his back foot, and still threw a very catchable ball to George Pickens. But that game, I remember that more as Jalen Warren and Najee Harris just murdering that Seattle defense.
Yeah, good point.
That's what I remember from that game. They ran all over that team, and that's the reason why that they won that game more than anything, is because they pounded them in submission.
No, quality quarterback performance, but
yes, but
they probably win that game with Rodgers too.
Right. Well, Seattle defense did play terribly, and again, they did. And this is a good question from Mike and Nem. watching live here on YouTube. He asks, in reality, how many more wins does Rodgers get you? I'll kick it. I have my own opinion on that, or at least a viewpoint on that. But what do you say, Matt? How many more compare if you have Mason Rudolph as your quarterback versus Aaron Rodgers? What's the win total between the two?
I'm not going to say exact numbers, but how about this scenario? I think the goal of the team is to win as many games and be as competitive as humanly possible in 2025 while still preparing the nest for the next quarterback, whether it's Milrose, Sanders, or a guy next year. And that's not easy to do. But how many times? Oh, we all know they haven't won a playoff game in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could win a playoff game with Rodgers.
I
don't think they can win a playoff game with Rudolph.
That's honestly the way I put it.
Yeah.
That's the way I think of it exactly was. I think with Mason Rudolph, and this sounds optimistic, but I do think they can have a winning season with Mason Rudolph. I think they can go 9-8.
I feel like I'm the only one in the whole city that thinks this team could be pretty good next year. I do.
They won 10 games last year, and I think that like already, like after the draft, I think their offense is going to look better than it did a year ago. Like 100%. Even without knowing who the quarterback's going to be, I still think their offense is going to look better because the receivers are definitely better. The running back room is probably going to look, I don't know, say it better because I still think highly of Najee Harris, but more appropriate. Better scheme fit. Right. More appropriate for what they want to do.
Chris, is it crazy that if Rodgers is a quarterback, they're better at every offensive position? Tight ends a walk.
No,
I think they're better at every offensive position. Right?
No, and that's the point is that, listen, this defense is going to look virtually the same. And even then, I'd even say the defense looks better right now, or at least it will after the draft because they're most.
I think you'll get more man coverage, and I think you're going to get a D tackle in the mix too.
100%. Right? Yeah. I mean, so again, we keep judging this team off of what they're going to do in 2025 before we've even seen what they do in the draft. Like if they get Derek Harmon in the first round, the defensive line's better than it was last year already.
Yeah.
With Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton and Derek Harmon and Daniel Akwale and all those guys. And then all receiver already looks better. If they get back into the second round and take Caleb Johnson, like,
right. That's a win now guy, right.
Yeah. And even if they took DJ Giddens in the third round,
mm-hmm.
DJ Giddens and Jalen Warren with Kenneth Gainwell, I'm sorry, for what Arthur Smith wants to do, that's what you want. And then
you get all those rookies from last year, including your first round pick back in the mix, and maybe Roman Wilson's good at the game. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, and I think
everybody keeps forgetting about Roman Wilson.
I know.
It's so funny.
It's hilarious to me.
But yeah, I the way I put it, and we'll take a break here right after this. But
Thornhill, Slay,
yes. I mean, oh yeah, the safety too. Like, because Thornhill's an upgrade over Casey.
Oh man.
But I agree. I think with Mason Rudolph, I think you have a high floor but a low ceiling. I don't think you can go into a stadium and face Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson and just look at the quarterback that you have and be like, yep, we can take that guy down.
Yeah, I'm not sure you beat CJ Stroud with it,
I
let
think
alone those
the
guys,
only reason I think you could get away with even beating CJ Stroud is if the defense had a ridiculous performance, like a great game where they held the Texans But to a guy who can put the cape on, again, Rodgers is not the guy he used to be. He's not the 4-time MVP anymore. But how do you feel about Mason Rudolph being your guy facing CJ Stroud versus Aaron Rodgers facing CJ Stroud?
Yeah, I need one big game from you, and then we'll go from there,
Yeah. Now, some people are like, well, if it's not going to get us a Super Bowl, then what's the point? I don't know. Because you never know.
It's a step in the right direction.
Even the Steelers, when the year that they last won the Super Bowl, Tom Brady wasn't in the mix because he tore his ACL in week 1. So you just you load your team up the best you can, and then you go and maybe you get lucky. Who knows? Anyway, let's take a quick
last thing. I mean, Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl when he could hardly throw the ball. I mean, I know that's rare.
Great.
Brady was still really, really good, but his, he wins the Super Bowl with Tampa, in a new home.
Mm-hmm.
Rodgers has had basically equal careers to those guys. I mean, it's never happened before,
Right. Yeah. All right. Let's take a quick break. We'll come right back. We're probably going to talk more about this, but we'll try to touch on the draft too, because shoot, man, the draft is a week from today.
Week away. Yeah.
it's awesome. So anyway, we'll be right back right after this here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Steelers YouTube channel and podcasting network.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Steelers YouTube channel here on DK Pittsburgh Sports. And some people watching the show are getting it, man. They're getting it. Like Cody here says, we need baby steps right now, playoff win, and then
Sure.
Kogan says getting TJ a win and giving these guys winning playoff experience is an important step. Absolutely.
No doubt.
Anytime, again, I have a legitimate question that I want everybody to answer who's watching this right now. If the Steelers won a playoff game in 2025, are you mad?
I know. Right.
Is that a legitimate question? Like for real? Would you be upset if the Steelers won a playoff game in 2020, like in the 2025?
Then they can't go get their quarterback.
They absolutely can because
yes,
the
they
Chiefs did it.
can. I just searched for it. They went from 27 to 10.
17 spot.
And all it took was their first round pick the next year and a third. I would do that in a heartbeat if there's a Mahomes, Allen, or so whoever you love.
Whoever it is.
Yeah, if you love somebody, great.
Whoever it is, and
coming off a playoff win, and then you go get that guy. Like now you're talking. That's how you turn into a big time team.
And that's the point that I think everybody should understand is that I understand people being upset about not having a plan. Like a long-term plan already in place where you already have the guy at quarterback. I get that. You want to have your quarterback, but unfortunately
there is a plan.
There is a plan.
Yeah.
Right. And the plan, I even got a question like on DK Pittsburgh Sports today. I'm doing live questions on the site. And I had a question being like, what if the plan, I forget exactly how it was worded, but like, it was something about like, okay, it's the plan, next year just to trade up and go get the guy. I was like, well, that's kind of part of it, but it's also fluid because you don't know what's going to happen in the draft this year because there might be a guy through all the homework that they did on all the quarterbacks, through having Shadir Sanders in for a visit and having Tyler Shuck in for a visit and having dinner with Jalen Milroe at Alabama and meeting with Will Howard multiple times. Like, you never know if they just met the guy that they are smitten with, that they believe can be their guy. And if he's available at a round or a pick that they are comfortable with, that they just might take him and be like, you know what, that's who we're going to commit to because that's who we believe.
And you have a year to figure it out too.
Exactly.
He's in your building. He's practicing. You get to know the player, the person, the leader, blah, blah, blah. Okay. We took a third round or the second round shot at Shuck or Milroe. I don't think that's the answer. Okay. So what? It doesn't mean then you take a bigger bite the next year.
Yeah. That's
the plan.
In response to my question earlier, Brent says, heck no. I like he'd be on cloud 9. And I think, and that's the majority of the response because, if Rodgers comes in 2025 and provides a playoff win, and then he rides off into the sunset and he never does anything else with the franchise ever again, then is it a failure? Is it an embarrassment? No.
Right. Or maybe he comes back another year and you win 2 playoff games.
Maybe.
I mean,
it also depends.
I don't know that it's a bad idea or it's a bad problem to have is winning playoff games.
Right. Because again, you don't know. Like, what if they sign Aaron Rodgers and then Josh Allen goes down with a torn ACL and the Bills are out of it at that point?
Mm-hmm.
That limits you. Like that takes away one big foe. And what if same thing happens to the Bengals? They may have Joe Burrow, but man alive, they still don't have a defense.
Yeah.
Like, what if they just
don't even get in? Right.
Yeah, they may not get in because they can't stop anybody else from scoring.
Mm-hmm. And the Ravens go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs, and then it's a 13-9 game in Baltimore in the AFC Championship game.
You never know. Like again, like, and you could play the game the other way around too. Do the Steelers win the Super Bowl in 2008 if Tom Brady doesn't tear his ACL?
Mm-hmm.
It's a legitimate question because Tom Brady was a Steelers killer. Like, let's just be honest about that.
Then we can finally stop hearing about how dumb Tomlin is and he doesn't know anything, and his streak's a farce and blah blah blah, and time to move on and burn down the stadium and the facility and need new ownership and come on,
yeah,
what are we talking about?
I get if the Steelers were allowing this to, and I will say I will become more critical of this entire endeavor if Rodgers is not signed by the time, which is next week. It's coming up real quick by the time the offseason program starts.
That's where I was I'm glad you brought that up, because now it's time. Right now, no one's doing football stuff. You walk the facility, it's empty. I mean, there's nobody there.
Yep.
But when it's he can't be in Egypt. He can't be, when you sign, you are in. You get all the freedom in the world, and I have all the patience in the world for your personal matters. That's great. You're a human being. We trust you. That's the relationship we're building.
Mm-hmm.
Once you sign, it's time to be in the building and running the show. You're right.
And that's what he said today, by the way. That's why he said I haven't signed with a team, because once you make a commitment to a team, you have to be all in.
And I can't be all in right now.
He's 100% right. Yeah, he's 100% right. Now, whether that's genuine or not, that's a whole that you can speculate that all you want. But the statement alone in a vacuum is 100% true. Once you commit to a team, once you sign your name on the dotted line, you're committed. Like you better be there, especially because if the bigger the role you have on the team, the more committed you have to be. If I get paid a higher salary, if DK calls me later after this, and he says, Chris, I want to give you a bigger role, I'm going to give you a raise. You think I'm going to just keep doing what I'm doing now? No, I'm going to do more because there's more expected of me. It's that's that.
I think Aaron Rodgers has a pretty good understanding what it takes to be an NFL starting quarterback at this point.
Yeah.
And everything that comes with it. Right.
But you do want to, at the same time, he will be brand new to the Steelers. And it will be important to the rest of the team that, okay, if he signs and he doesn't go to OTAs, he doesn't have to, but he doesn't go to OTAs because he doesn't have to. I already know how to win at the NFL level. Like if he has that kind of mentality, that irks me a little bit.
I don't think he was a great player, but I really give Russell Wilson credit for buying into all that stuff.
100%.
That was wonderful.
Never questioned Russ's buy-in. Never questioned that whatsoever. He was definitely a team guy. He was there all the way. Even whenever I swear it would not surprise me if he slept in his helmet and cleats in the dorms in Latrobe. It would not surprise me. He was always team first. But
I don't know if all our listeners know this, and I didn't put two and two together until Dale brought it up on the drive today. Even the very first phases of OTAs, there's still hardly anybody there. Like the coaches aren't even involved. Right. There's no coaches there. So if he isn't there for the first quote OTA, this guy just played the Steelers, blah, 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 blah. When they really start going, the step 2 of the OTAs, he needs to be there.
He needs to be there. And then obviously, like even mini camp, like you have to be there. Like if you're not there, then you pay fines. Like it's actually mandatory for you to be there unless you have some sort of excused absence. And then if that were to happen again, if Mike Tomlin were to say, yeah, you're excused, you don't have to do this, you don't have to come, then you're starting to worry about, okay, is he going to start getting preferential treatment? Then where does it stop? Where does it, and that's why I'm saying that's why I'll get a little bit more critical if the programs are beginning, the offseason programs are beginning, and you're not going the extra mile. You're not showing that you're completely bought in, because TJ Watt's going to be bought in. He wants to win. He wants to win playoff games. And he's about to get paid like one of the best, if not the highest paid edge rusher in the league. So that's why he's doing that, because not only because that's expected of him, but because he wants to win. And you should want to see that kind of buy-in from your quarterback, which is the most important position in sports. So,
that's when it starts to be deadline or put up or shut up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's why it's interesting to see, because Tomlin's line of demarcation when talking at the NFL annual meeting was training camp. Like that's what he defined as a line of demarcation. So
I want Cousins or somebody in place by then. You know what I mean?
Me too. I don't, you don't want to, you don't want to have like mini camp gone, wrapped up in the books. Everybody's getting ready to finish watching the US Open on Father's Day, and Aaron Rodgers is still not signed with anybody. Like you got to have the quarterback figured out by then.
there's that semi-valuable practice time that you just flushed. I would have a problem with that.
Exactly. Let's see. There were a couple of questions here that were really good that I wanted to try to get to before we wrap this up. We're going to try to keep this at the normal 30 minutes. Next week, by the way, we will try to knock out a show before the draft.
Okay.
At some point, we have to figure out a day. Once we know, I'll post it on here and let you guys know. If anybody has a question, just drop it in the comments real quick, because like I said, we're getting near the end here. But just to wrap up on the Rodgers stuff, and if it's a draft question, drop it in. But just to wrap up on the Rodgers stuff, I didn't take it as like, obviously it's news because Rodgers is talking and he helps kind of like, I'm dealing with personal issues right now, and that's my sole focus, and that's the reason why I haven't signed yet, because I don't feel like I can fully commit to a team. And like, okay, well, that's good to hear. But now the Steelers, now the ball's in the Steelers' court. That's the way I took it. They can decide, okay, we'll continue to wait. We think he's our best option. But we will, I mean, even Rooney said, I don't want to wait forever.
Sure.
So I think that's,
I like the way you phrased it. The Steelers have more power in this than people tend to want to realize. They're not held hostage, et cetera, et cetera. Did you have any takes or thoughts on Rodgers saying, I'd play for $10 million? I thought that was kind of odd that he would throw that number out.
I know, that is interesting.
Because I didn't take it one way or another, but no, it is interesting because, like, now I don't know, he could just be pulling that number out of his rear end. I don't know, but that is interesting that he did say I'd play for 10 M's. Like, okay,
so maybe it really isn't about the money, or maybe he just saw Russell Wilson's contract, because I think his base guarantee is $10.5 million. So maybe that was on his mind. I don't know.
I mean, they obviously have the cap space. He obviously has a lot of money. I mean, I don't think that's even an issue.
Yeah.
But like, it's funny. I was at the radio station earlier, basically right after the show, the McAfee show, and someone there that I know and trust said the impression they got from the $10 million is they were hoping that he's hoping some other team calls him and says, oh, if you're willing to pay for $10 million, come play for me. Like, that he just doesn't want to be a Steeler. And I didn't interpret that.
I did not get that. With everything else that he said that was glowing about the Steelers, I did not get that, because he said
now the Vikings are in if it's only $10 million. Or, I didn't feel that way.
I did not either. I did not. Kyle asks a question here. He says, why invest so heavily in defense when modern refs are basically the 12th man on offense? Just go all out, make that offensive line 100%, or you will never evaluate future quarterbacks. I think that's like talking about like why,
they drafted 5 offensive linemen in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Including 2 first-rounders and a second. I think they're doing that. It's not as expensive because they're draft capital, not cap space.
Right. And there will come a certain point where, especially, once the Steelers get a franchise quarterback, if and when that happens, that the spending is going to
shift. Right.
It's going to shift. It's just when Ben Roethlisberger was under contract, he was taking up he was the highest cap hit on the team. It remained that way for a long time. So
I think it's just kind of worked it out that way, as opposed to our whole goal is to be the highest. They don't want to be number 1 on cap spending on one side and 32 on the other. I mean, that's not the plan, and it won't be long term.
But again, I do want to really hammer home, because I even put this on DKPittsburghSports.com and in reference to TJ Watt getting an extension at some point, because it's going to happen. Just everybody get over it. It's going to happen.
Traded.
No. If the Steelers were to, just to put this in perspective, if the Steelers were to sign him to the same deal that he got 4 years ago, adjusted for inflation,
that's what everyone needs to know. His
AAV for this extension would be $42.8 million. Which is $2.8 million more than Myles Garrett got in terms of per year. Now you hear that number, you're like, oh my gosh, it's literally the same contract he got 4 years ago, adjusted for inflation. Now you can argue, well, he's now going to be 30 and he's not the same guy he was 4 years ago. Number one, I'll argue with you on that one. Right. He had 11.5 sacks last year. Doesn't mean that he's some sort of a player on the decline or something like that. He's still probably the best run defending edge rusher in the league. and he can still get after the quarterback. Oh, and by the way, he also still does more in coverage than most other edge rushers too.
Was there another attention too? Right.
Yeah. Was there another level that he probably could have hit last year? Yeah, probably. But that's also at the level that in which you're like, okay, that's the runaway defensive player of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Not, okay, I think he's
no good anymore.
Right. That's the thing that really, really kind of irks me about.
I don't know if all our listeners quite know what you mean by adjusting for inflation, because here's the example: is all that really matters is percentage of cap.
Yes.
The league is so healthy. These owners are so wealthy that the cap is going up at an astronomical number. It's all percentage of cap. Don't even look at what the dollars are. And here's a perfect example. DK Metcalf, the last contract he signed with the Seahawks was a higher percentage of the salary cap than the one the Steelers just gave him. That's all that matters. Not what the dollars say. It's percentage of cap.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up the exact percentage. By the way, when TJ Watt signed his last contract, it was the AAV was 15.3% of the league's salary cap.
Okay.
The contract that Myles Garrett just got is less than 15% of the league's salary cap this year. So
he matches the Garrett contract. It's still less than the one it's less than his former contract.
Correct.
The one he's working on now.
Because 4 years ago, the league's salary cap was $182.5 million. This year, it's $279.2 million. It's grown almost $100 million in 4 years.
And what would it be in Watt's last year of his contract?
Exactly.
Another $100 million or
like
$200 million.
The largest cap percentage of Garrett's massive contract. It is, and this is whenever his cap hit grows to well over $60 million. It's still less than 16% of the league projected league cap. And the way it's growing right now, the way the cap is growing right now, man, like it.
Right. Yeah. There's only gonna be more and more money.
Right. Mike does say, I wonder if the cap is real. It is real, but there are a lot of ways to manipulate it, to structure contracts. And also, do you hear AAV? Oh, it's $40 million. Also, contracts are not fully guaranteed. That $150 million contract the Steelers just gave to DK Metcalf, you know how much of that is guaranteed? $60 million. That's $90 million that DK Metcalf may never see of that contract.
If he falls off, you move on. Right.
Exactly. So anyway, all right, we're going to go and wrap it up. We will be back next week before the draft at some point. We have meetings to do here internally to figure out all the content we're going to be doing, but we are going to be loaded for draft week. There will be another episode of this show before we do the draft. It'll be sometime earlier next week. Pre-draft press conference, by the way, is also going to be, I believe, Tuesday. So we will be that's when Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan are going to do their meeting with the media. I will be there. DK will be there, and we will have plenty of stuff from Tuesday. We'll have plenty of stuff on Wednesday, and then obviously on draft day, both Thursday, Friday, and Saturday also as well. We're going to have a lot of stuff. So keep tabs on here and keep tabs on DKPittsburghSports.com as well. So until the next time we see you guys on here, we'll catch you on the Flippity Flip.